Marcus stepped off the quantum shuttle, clutching his worn leather satchel against his chest like a shield. The Proxima Centauri orbital station stretched before him, a gleaming masterpiece of engineering that made Earth's most advanced space habitats look like primitive huts. Human Marcus Chen, proceed to immigration, chirped an automated voice as a holographic arrow materialized before him. He followed the guidance system through soaring corridors where gravity shifted subtly between sections. Alien delegates from across the galaxy glided past him on anti-gravity disks, slithered along specialized pathways, or simply floated through designated flight zones. Marcus caught fragments of conversation from universal translators, most discussing the upcoming competition, some specifically mentioning Earth's unexpected inclusion. They invited a human. How quaint. I heard it was a diversity initiative. Perhaps they'll display the human design in the Historical Curiosities exhibit. Marcus kept his eyes forward, his jaw tight. He'd earned this invitation with his revolutionary adaptive materials research, or so he'd thought. The growing suspicion that his presence was meant as some cosmic joke gnawed at him. The immigration officer, a gelatinous being with 7 eye stalks, processed his credentials with obvious disinterest. Purpose of visit: Galactic Engineering Symposium competitor. Duration: 1 standard cycle. Accommodations: Level 47, Engineering Quarter, Pod 12B. The being paused, eye stalks swiveling to focus on Marcus. You understand that Earth technology is classified as Category 8, yes? You may observe Category 4 technologies and above, but interaction with Category 3 and below is prohibited without supervision. Category 8, Marcus questioned. The being's translucent body rippled with what might have been amusement. Pre-quantum civilizations, still reliant on electronic computing and chemical propulsion. We've developed rudimentary quantum drives, Marcus protested. Yes, rudimentary. The being stamped his documentation. Proceed to orientation. The orientation chamber housed representatives from 57 worlds, their diverse biologies requiring a complex life support system that maintained multiple atmospheric bubbles within the single room. Marcus found himself seated beside a crystalline entity whose faceted body refracted light into dazzling patterns. First time at the symposium, the entity asked, its voice resonating directly in Marcus's mind. Yes, I'm Marcus Chen, from Earth. The entity's crystalline structure shifted slightly. Gravful, chief engineer of the Vexillian Starforge. Earth, that's the water world in the Sol system, correct? The one that only achieved spaceflight mere centuries ago. Before Marcus could respond, the orientation began with a holographic display showcasing previous symposium winners. Ships that could fold space, vessels grown from sentient coral, craft powered by harnessed starlight, each more incredible than the last. This year's competition focuses on adaptive systems in extreme conditions, announced the presenter, a hovering collective of gas-filled sacs interconnected by luminous tendrils. Your assigned workshops contain basic materials. Specialized requirements must be submitted for approval by the end of this cycle. As the presentation concluded, delegates moved toward the workshop assignment area. Marcus found himself walking alongside Gravful. What innovation does Earth bring to the symposium? The crystalline engineer inquired, towering almost 2 meters above Marcus. Biomimetic technology, Marcus replied. Systems inspired by Earth's life forms. Gravful emitted a sound like tinkling glass, apparently laughter. You mean to compete using designs copied from primitive biological organisms, against ships engineered at the quantum level? The crystal beam's structure flashed with patterns of amusement. Perhaps the judges appreciated the concept of comic relief this cycle. Marcus received his workshop assignment, a cramped space at the station's periphery, far from the premium laboratories assigned to established species. As the door slid shut behind him, he surveyed the basic equipment and materials provided. Prove them wrong, he whispered to himself, unpacking his satchel to reveal carefully preserved samples from Earth, seeds, feathers, scales, and shells. Biological engineering solutions perfected over billions of years of evolution. By the third cycle, Marcus had transformed his workshop into a miniature Earth biosphere. Hydroponic containers lined the walls, nurturing specimens from his homeworld under specialized growth lamps. Holographic displays cycled through recordings of Earth creatures in motion. Birds navigating wind currents, fish swimming through coral reefs, insects building complex structures. The station's environmental systems struggled to maintain the humid, oxygen-rich atmosphere he preferred. Condensation beaded on the ceiling, occasionally dripping onto passing aliens who peered through his workshop's transparent walls, their expressions ranging from curiosity to disdain. "Is this some form of primitive terrarium?" asked a passing Quillarain, their tentacle-like appendages gesturing at Marcus's workspace, or perhaps a food production facility. Marcus didn't bother responding anymore. His focus remained on a translucent membrane stretched across a testing frame, its surface patterned with microscopic structures inspired by lotus leaves. When he applied pressure to one side, the membrane didn't tear but redistributed the force across its entire surface. Fascinating approach. Marcus startled at the voice, turning to find an insectoid being hovering near his workbench. Unlike the towering Vexillians or ethereal Quillarain, this alien was closer to human scale, with a delicate exoskeleton that shimmered with iridescent blues and greens. 6 slender arms operated a hovering array of recording devices. "I'm Zyla," the alien introduced herself, compound eyes capturing light from multiple angles. "Journalist for the Interstellar Technical Review. Mind if I document your work?" Marcus hesitated. "Most others just come to mock." "I'm not most others," Zyla replied, her translator conveying a tone of amusement. "Besides, mockery makes for boring journalism. Innovation, even failed innovation, is much more interesting." "Glad to know my potential failure has entertainment value," Marcus said dryly. Zyla's antennae twitched. "Don't misunderstand. I've covered 12 symposiums, and I've seen the pattern. The most revolutionary designs rarely come from established engineering traditions." She gestured toward a specimen container where Marcus had been studying the structure of spider silk. "Explain this to me. Why study primitive biological structures when you have access to quantum engineering principles?" Marcus carefully extracted a strand of silk and placed it under a molecular scanner. "This spider silk is 5 times stronger than steel by weight. The spider that made it has a brain smaller than a pinhead and no technology beyond its own biology." The scanner displayed the molecular structure, highlighting its complex arrangement. Earth evolved in a state of constant crisis. Shifting climates, natural disasters, competing species. Our organisms don't develop perfect solutions. They develop adaptable ones. Zilla moved closer, her recording devices capturing the molecular display. "And you believe this adaptability has value in spacecraft design?" Instead of answering directly, Marcus activated another display, showing the Vexillian crystal ships. "Beautiful, aren't they? Perfect for the conditions they're designed for." He switched to historical footage of a Vexillian vessel shattering when caught in an unexpected gravitational anomaly, but brittle when faced with the unexpected. He retrieved a small terrarium containing a tardigrade specimen. This microscopic creature can survive in the vacuum of space, withstand radiation that would kill most species, and live without water for decades by entering a dehydrated state. No technology required. Zyla's recording devices zoomed in on the tiny creature. "You're not building a ship," she observed. "You're creating an organism." Marcus smiled for the first time since arriving. "Not exactly. But I am applying the principles that make Earth life so resilient. Space is unpredictable, dangerous, and constantly changing, just like Earth." A commencement sounded throughout the station, announcing 5 days remaining until demonstration. As Zilla prepared to leave, she tilted her head curiously. "Most competitors guard their designs jealously. Why share your approach so openly?" Marcus glanced toward Gravfol's workshop across the promenade, where guards prevented any unauthorized observation. "Because I'm not afraid of being copied. The wisdom of Earth's biology took billions of years to perfect. It can't be replicated in a few days without understanding the principles behind it. Marcus knew something was wrong the moment his workshop door slid open. The sweet, earthy scent of his carefully cultivated specimens had been replaced by a sickly odor reminiscent of decay. He rushed to the central growing chamber, where his primary biological components had been developing. "No, no, no," he whispered, heart sinking as he surveyed the damage. The living membrane he'd cultivated from modified algae cells, designed to form the adaptive hull of his ship, had collapsed into a putrid mass. The neural-like network of specialized fungal strands lay blackened and withered. Every organic component had been systematically destroyed, as if targeted by a specifically engineered pathogen. Marcus accessed the workshop's security system, his fingers trembling with a mixture of rage and desperation. The footage showed an empty workshop until, at precisely 2:37 station time, a shadow moved across the floor, a cloaked figure materializing from what appeared to be a portable stealth field. The figure released a canister of fine mist that settled over Marcus's specimens before vanishing again. He reported the sabotage immediately, but the station's security chief, a reptilian being named Cress with gleaming obsidian scales, seemed unimpressed. "We've reviewed the footage," Cress stated, yellow eyes unblinking. "There is no evidence of intrusion." "I showed you the shadow movement," Marcus protested. "The stealth technology." "Human visual perception is notoriously unreliable," Cress interrupted. "Your specimens likely succumbed to improper environmental controls. Earth biology is hardly suited to space habitation." Zila arrived as the security chief departed. Her antennae drooped visibly when she saw the devastation. "This was deliberate," she said, not a question but a statement. "Security claims it was natural failure," Marcus replied bitterly. 3 days before demonstration, and everything is dead." He collapsed onto his work stool, staring at the ruined specimens. Earth was 36 light-years away. There was no possibility of receiving replacement samples in time. "Who would benefit most from your elimination?" Zyla asked, already recording the scene. "The Vexillians have been the most openly hostile," Marcus admitted, "but any competitor might see humans as easy targets." He rubbed his temples, exhaustion threatening to overwhelm him. "It doesn't matter now. Without my primary components, I can't complete the design." Zyla's compound eyes reflected the workshop's lights as she studied him. "So you'll surrender? Return to Earth in disgrace?" The question stung, awakening something stubborn in Marcus's chest. He looked again at his ruined specimens, seeing them with new eyes. The decomposition process had already begun, nature's way of transforming death into new life. "No," he said slowly, an idea forming. "I'm not surrendering." He moved to the workbench and began rapidly entering calculations into his design interface. Earth species don't just survive, they transform. When trees fall in forests, they become nurseries for new growth. When animals die, their bodies nourish the soil. Marcus extracted samples from the decomposing material, analyzing their changing molecular structures. The saboteur didn't understand Earth biology. They saw only the living components as valuable, not recognizing that death is part of our planet's adaptive cycle. Zila moved closer, her recording devices capturing his feverish work. "You're using the destroyed specimens." "Better than using them," Marcus replied, a determined smile spreading across his face. "I'm incorporating their destruction into the design itself." He projected a revised schematic, where the ship's systems now included components that would intentionally break down and regenerate, a continuous cycle of death and rebirth that made the vessel more adaptive, not less. "Whoever did this gave me the final component I needed," Marcus said, already synthesizing new materials from the decomposing samples. "They reminded me that Earth's greatest innovation isn't just adaptation to survive, it's transformation through crisis." Marcus worked through the night cycle, his workshop lights burning while other competitors rested. The sabotage had been meant to eliminate him from the competition, but instead had catalyzed an evolution in his design, one that embraced impermanence as a strength rather than a weakness. The presentation hall defied conventional architecture, its walls shifting like liquid crystal to accommodate the vastly different environmental needs of each contestant. Marcus waited in a small antechamber, watching through a transparent partition as the Harmonites presented their entry, a ship that existed simultaneously across multiple dimensions, appearing to phase in and out of reality. "Impressive application of quantum probability fields," commented a voice behind him. Marcus turned to find Dr. Exelon, the Kularain scientist rumored to be the most influential judge. Her exoskeleton pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that shifted from deep indigo to vibrant azure. "You must be the human contestant," she continued, her sensory tendrils waving gently. "I've been curious about Earth's approach." Before Marcus could respond, the announcement system chimed. "Competitor Marcus Chen of Earth, prepare for presentation." Dr. Exelon's lights flickered in what might have been the Kularain equivalent of a smile. "I look forward to seeing what you've created." Marcus wheeled his creation onto the presentation platform, a simple transport cart carrying what appeared to be nothing more exceptional than an oversized seed pod, its surface a muted brown with subtle patterns etched into its fibrous exterior. The audience fell silent before murmurs rippled through the assembled engineers and dignitaries. Marcus heard fragments of translated commentary. Did he bring a plant? Perhaps the human misunderstood the competition parameters. Is this some form of primitive escape pod? At the judge's platform, Grav Foal's crystalline form shimmered with what Marcus had come to recognize as amusement. Only Dr. Exelon leaned forward, her sensory tendrils extended toward the seed-like vessel. The competition hall transformed into an emergency command center within moments. Holographic displays showed the approaching radiation front, a wall of deadly energy cascading from Proxima Centauri's surface in violent, unpredictable waves. The research outpost's location blinked ominously near the leading edge of the storm. All prototype vessels capable of rescue operations report to launch bay immediately, ordered the station commander, a Kularain admiral whose exoskeleton had darkened to deep purple with stress. The Vexillian contingent moved with practiced efficiency, their crystalline forms resonating in coordinated patterns as they prepared their ships. Other species rushed to ready their vessels, some arguing about whether prototypes should be risked on a rescue mission. Marcus stood beside his seed-like craft, uncertainty gnawing at him. The Earthrise had never been tested in actual space conditions, let alone a radiation storm. He ran diagnostics on the activation sequence, checking and rechecking the synthetic biological systems. "You're not actually considering launching that pod into a Class 9 radiation event." Grav Foal's crystalline voice resonated with disbelief as he paused beside Marcus. 23 researchers will die if no one reaches them," Marcus replied. Noble sentiment, Grav Foal's facets shifted into what Marcus recognized as the Vexillian equivalent of a dismissive smile. "But our vessels will handle the rescue. Your seed would be incinerated before reaching the halfway point." As the Vexillian moved toward the launch bay, Zyla darted through the crowd, her iridescent wings catching the emergency lights. "Marcus, I've been authorized to document the rescue mission. The station commander wants comprehensive coverage." "Then you should follow the Vexillians," Marcus said, still running calculations. "Their ships have the highest probability of success." Zyla's compound eyes fixed on his face. "Their ships are magnificent in stable conditions. But that storm," her antennae twitched toward the holographic display. "It's chaotic, unpredictable. Exactly the kind of environment Earth evolved in, according to your research." Marcus studied the radiation patterns more carefully. The storm wasn't just intense, it was erratic, with shifting fronts and unexpected surges that would challenge any navigation system programmed for optimal pathways. "I need to activate the germination sequence now if we're going," he said. Decision made. "The Earthrise needs time to fully deploy its systems." Zyla's antennae perked up. "I could use an extra set of hands," Marcus admitted. or 6 in your case. Without hesitation, Zyla climbed into the opening that had appeared in the seed-like hull. I've covered 12 symposiums, never participated in one. This will make exceptional journalism. Marcus placed his palm against the control surface. The dormant ship responded immediately, the outer hull warming as biological processes accelerated. The seed segments began to separate further, internal structures unfurling like the petals of a blooming flower. Station personnel stopped to stare as the Earthrise transformed. What had appeared primitive now revealed its complexity, layer upon layer of specialized tissues expanding and differentiating. Translucent membranes stretched to form cavern walls, while capillary-like networks carried nutrients and information throughout the growing structure. Remarkable, breathed a passing Harmonite engineer. It's metabolizing ambient energy to fuel its metamorphosis. By the time they reached the launch bay, the Earthrise bore little resemblance to its seed form. It had developed into an organic vessel with flowing lines and adaptive surfaces that rippled slightly with each shift in the station's environment. The Vexillian ships had already launched, perfect crystalline forms reflecting the light of the angry star as they accelerated toward the radiation front. Their beauty was undeniable, their technology refined over thousands of years of interstellar travel. Marcus took the pilot's position as launch systems engage, Earthrise responding to emergency protocols. He reported to station control, requesting launch clearance. Clearance granted, came the reply, though Marcus detected skepticism in the controller's tone. Human vessel advised. Radiation levels exceed safety parameters for Category 8 technology. Acknowledge, Marcus replied, activating the final deployment sequence. But Earth organisms have thrived in crisis conditions for billions of years. The launch doors opened to reveal the churning maelstrom of Proxima Centauri's rage. As they accelerated into the storm, the Earthrise's external membranes began to transform, developing iridescent qualities that reminded Marcus of the wings of Earth butterflies, seemingly fragile, yet remarkably resilient. The moment they penetrated the outer edge of the radiation storm, Marcus understood why conventional ships would struggle. The radiation didn't flow in predictable patterns, but pulsed in chaotic bursts, each wave unique in intensity and direction. The Earthrise shuddered as the first surge washed over them. Hull integrity at 87%, Marcus reported, monitoring the biological systems. Rather than displaying numbers on screens, the ship communicated through subtle color changes in its interior tissues, greens and blues indicating stability, yellows and reds warning of stress. Look. Zyla pointed through the translucent hull. Ahead, 3 Vexillian vessels carved elegant paths through the storm, their crystalline structures gleaming. But as Marcus watched, a particularly violent radiation surge caught the lid ship. Its perfect geometric shields flared brilliantly before developing hairline fractures that spread rapidly across the surface. Their shields are optimized for standard radiation levels, Marcus explained. They can't adapt quickly enough to these fluctuations. The Earthrise's external membrane, meanwhile, had begun to develop dark patches that absorbed radiation rather than reflecting it. Marcus recognized the adaptation. Similar to how certain fungi on Earth could metabolize radiation, converting it from threat to food. The ship is feeding on the radiation, Zyla observed, her recording devices capturing the transformation. Not just feeding, Marcus clarified, studying the internal diagnostics. It's learning. Each radiation pattern it processes informs how it responds to the next wave. They pushed deeper into the storm, navigating by instinct as much as instruments. Conventional navigation systems failed in the electromagnetic chaos, but the Earthrise's biomimetic sensors, inspired by the electrosensory organs of sharks and the magnetoreception of migratory birds, continued to function. A desperate transmission cut through the interference. Vexillian flagship to all vessels. We've sustained critical damage. Systems failing. Requesting immediate assistance. Marcus adjusted course toward the distress signal, the ship responding smoothly despite the increasingly hostile environment. They found the Vexilian flagship tumbling through space, its once perfect crystalline structure now fracturing along multiple stress lines. The ship's energy signature was weakening rapidly. "That's Grav Full's vessel," Zyla said, recognizing the distinctive pattern. Marcus hesitated only briefly. The Vexilian had been his most vocal critic, possibly even behind the sabotage of his workshop. But survival in hostile environments required cooperation as much as adaptation. Another lesson from Earth's evolutionary history. "Earthrise to Vexilian flagship," he transmitted. "Preparing for rescue operation." "We do not require assistance from primitive technology," came the strained reply, though the visual feed showed Gravhull's crystalline form had already developed stress fractures. "Your ship is breaking apart," Marcus stated matter-of-factly. "Your crystal lattice cannot redistribute the radiation stress quickly enough." As if to emphasize his point, another radiation surge hit the Vexilian vessel, causing a major section to shear away completely. The ship's emergency systems ejected crystalline escape pods, but these too began to fracture in the intense radiation. "Initiating external adaptation," Marcus announced, placing his hands on the Earthrise's control surfaces. The ship responded immediately, extending fibrous tendrils from its hull, structures reminiscent of plant roots or fungal mycelium networks. These tendrils reached toward the failing Vexilian vessel, surrounding the fractured crystal with a protective organic mesh. "What are you doing?" Grav Full demanded as the tendrils enveloped his ship. "Earth organisms form symbiotic relationships to survive hostile environments," Marcus explained. "Lichens combine fungi and algae. Coral polyps host photosynthetic algae. Neither could survive alone in their respective environments." The Earthrise's tendrils continued to spread, creating a living cocoon around the crystalline vessel. Where the organic material touched crystal, a remarkable transformation began, the two seemingly incompatible materials forming a hybrid structure that channeled and distributed the radiation stress. "Impossible," Grav Full whispered, watching as his ship's failing systems stabilized. "Organic and crystalline technologies are fundamentally incompatible." "Only if you design them to be," Marcus replied. "Earth taught me that boundaries between species exist to be crossed when survival requires it." The research outpost materialized through the radiation haze, a fragile structure of interlocked modules already showing signs of structural failure. Its outer shielding flickered weakly, barely holding back the stellar fury. Two other rescue vessels hovered at a safe distance, their captains evidently calculating risk against reward. "Life signs?" Marcus asked, directing the question to the Earthrise itself, rather than to conventional sensors. The ship's interior tissues pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, a communication system that had evolved during their journey through the storm. Marcus had learned to interpret these signals, understanding that the ship was detecting 23 distinct life forms within the failing outpost. "We need to create a direct connection," he told Zilla and Grav Full. "The researchers won't survive transfer through the radiation." Grav Full, who had reluctantly joined them in the Earthrise's control chamber after his ship's systems had failed completely, studied the outpost's deteriorating structure. "The differential between our vessel and the outpost is too great. Any docking attempt would tear their remaining structure apart." "Not if we adapt to them, rather than forcing them to adapt to us," Marcus replied. He placed both hands on the ship's neural interface. The Earthrise responded immediately, extending a specialized structure from its forward section, a tubular passage composed of multiple layers of protective tissue. "A bridge?" Zyla asked, recording the phenomenon with all 6 of her appendages. "Inspired by how certain parasitic plants create specialized structures to connect with host plants," Marcus explained, "but symbiotic rather than parasitic." The organic bridge extended toward the outpost, adjusting its trajectory as the structure shifted in the gravitational flux. When it made contact, the connection point blossomed outward, creating a perfect seal against the damaged airlock. "Remarkable," Graf admitted, his crystalline form reflecting the ship's internal bioluminescence. Your vessel doesn't impose a standardized connection. It conforms to what it finds. Marcus nodded. Earth species that survive extreme environments rarely do so by overpowering them. They succeed by finding complementary relationships. The evacuation began immediately. The researchers, a diverse collection of species from across the galaxy, emerged through the organic bridge wide-eyed with wonder. Many had expected to die in the outpost. None had expected rescue by a ship that appeared more creature than machine. A Kularain researcher paused as she entered the Earthrise's main chamber. This design, it's unlike anything in the Galactic Registry. It's from Earth, Marcus explained, helping her to a secure position as the ship adjusted its internal configuration to accommodate her species' unique biology. The primitive world. Her bioluminescent patterns registered surprise. But this is extraordinarily advanced biomimetic engineering. Not advanced, Marcus corrected gently. Just different. We adapted principles that Earth life developed over billions of years. As the last researcher entered, the outpost's remaining structure finally collapsed. The organic bridge detached cleanly, retracting into the Earthrise's hull where its tissues would be recycled and repurposed. All survivors secured, Marcus reported through the patchy communication system. Returning to station. The journey back proved more challenging than the outward voyage. The radiation storm had intensified, creating conditions that tested even the Earthrise's adaptive capabilities. Under normal circumstances, Marcus would have plotted a longer route around the worst of the storm, but the injured researchers needed immediate medical attention. We must go through the radiation peak, he decided, studying the storm patterns. Graf moved to his side, crystalline fingers hovering over a section of the ship's neural interface. My people have navigated stellar phenomena for millennia. Perhaps a temporary integration of our approaches. Marcus hesitated only briefly before nodding. The Earthrise can create interfaces for different neural structures. Place your hand there. As Grafhol's crystalline appendage made contact with the organic surface, a remarkable synthesis occurred. The ship's tissues adapted to connect with the Vexillian's silicon-based neural pathways, creating a hybrid navigation system that combined Vexillian astronomical knowledge with Earth-inspired adaptive responses. The Earthrise surged forward, its external membranes constantly reshaping to channel the radiation flow. Where the storm's energy grew too intense to deflect, the ship simply absorbed it, converting destructive potential into usable power. Your ship doesn't fight the radiation, Graf observed with growing understanding. It dances with it. The Proxima Centauri orbital station erupted in commotion as the Earthrise docked. Medical teams rushed to attend to the rescued researchers, while engineering crews marveled at the ship's transformed state. No longer resembling either its initial seed form or any conventional spacecraft, the Earthrise had evolved into something entirely new. A hybrid organism vessel that pulsed with life and adaptation. Marcus stepped onto the arrival platform, exhaustion etched into his features, but pride evident in his stance. Behind him came Xyla, all 6 appendages busily transmitting footage of their journey, and Graf, whose crystalline form now contained streaks of organic material where he had interfaced with the Earthrise's systems. Dr. Exelon approached, her exoskeleton glowing with intense bioluminescent patterns. The symposium committee has reviewed the mission data. Your presentation, it seems, continued well beyond the exhibition hall. A crowd gathered as other competitors and judges assembled. The Vexillian delegation stood rigidly apart until Graf moved to join them, his crystalline resonance conveying information beyond the capacity of verbal language. Gradually, their posture shifted. The human vessel saved 17 of our engineers across 3 ships, announced the Vexillian prime engineer, his voice like chimes in a breeze. More significantly, it demonstrated adaptation capabilities we had deemed theoretically impossible. Dr. Exelon's sensory tendrils waved gently. The Galactic Engineering Symposium has always evaluated innovation not merely by theoretical elegance, but by practical application. Today's events provided an unexpected testing ground far more rigorous than our planned challenges. She gestured toward the main symposium hall, where holographic displays showed footage of the Earthrise evolving throughout its journey, developing new structures and capabilities in response to each challenge. Engineer Chen, she continued, your biomimetic approach has demonstrated that what we perceived as technological simplicity was in fact evolutionary sophistication. The committee's decision is unanimous. Marcus found himself ushered to the central platform as the traditional crystalline award materialized, a perfect geometric shape representing engineering excellence across the galaxy. I'm honored, he began, receiving the award with still shaking hands. But this recognition belongs not just to me, but to Earth itself, to the billions of species that evolved solutions to environmental challenges long before humans developed technology. He looked at the diverse assembly of alien engineers. The Earthrise succeeded not because it was superior to your vessels, but because it was different, offering alternative solutions when conventional approaches failed. The greatest innovation comes not from perfecting a single approach, but from maintaining diversity of thought and design. Dr. Exelon's colors shifted to indicate agreement, which brings us to your prize. As symposium winner, you're entitled to exclusive development rights for your technology. Marcus smiled. I'd like to propose an alternative. Instead of exclusive rights, I wish to establish an interspecies engineering collaborative focused on biomimetic adaptation principles. Murmurs spread through the crowd as Marcus continued. Earth has spent billions of years developing biological solutions to survival challenges. Your civilizations have spent thousands of years developing technological ones. Imagine what we might create together. The first to step forward was, surprisingly, Grafthal. The Vexillian Starforge offers its resources to this collaborative. Our crystalline technology, combined with Earth's adaptive principles, could revolutionize interstellar travel. Others followed, representatives from dozens of species pledging support and resources. Contracts were signed, technology-sharing protocols established, and research priorities outlined with remarkable speed. As the formal proceedings concluded, Zyla approached Marcus, her recording devices temporarily inactive. Your story has already gone superluminal, reaching every corner of the Confederation. Engineers across the galaxy are reconsidering biological principles they'd dismissed as primitive. Marcus watched as alien engineers examined samples of the Earthrise's tissue, already discussing potential applications. It's not about Earth teaching the galaxy, he observed. It's about remembering that nature solved many of our engineering challenges long before we recognized them as problems. Outside the station viewports, Proxima Centauri continued to rage, its radiation storm gradually subsiding. But its fury had catalyzed something unprecedented, a recognition that the most advanced technology might not be crystalline or quantum or dimensional, but biological, born from the relentless evolutionary crucible of a seemingly unremarkable blue planet.